Hey KO team and family, it's Mr. Thompson. Welcome to another remote video learning lesson. Today we're going to be recognizing and identifying forms, patterns, and structure in poetry. So today's lesson is an extension from last week's lesson where we talked about sound devices, alliteration, rhyming, and repetition. Today we're going to be focusing entirely on structure. So for this lesson, you're going to need access to Google Classroom and a computer, smartphone, or tablet. Key points for today's lesson. In this lesson, you will learn about how the structure of a poem affects its meaning. Poems are usually written in groups of lines called stanzas rather than in paragraphs. Poems tell a story or express the speaker's thoughts or feelings. Poems, like stories, have patterns that help readers interpret the poet's message. The way a poem is organized is called poetic structure. Determining a poem's structure and figuring out how it reveals more about a poem's meaning will help you better understand the poems you read. Okay, so today we're going to be focusing specifically on stanzas, free verse, and rhyme scheme. Okay? Stanzas are lines grouped together in a poem. This is like the way that in a text or a novel, words are grouped by paragraphs. In poems, words are grouped by stanzas. Okay? So a way to think about a stanza would be like a paragraph in a poem. Okay? Free verse is when a poem has no rhyme scheme at all. There's no discernible rhyme scheme. And because of that, they can be a little bit more difficult to read. Rhyme scheme is the pattern of rhyme in a poem. So, kick off today's motto. We're going to be looking at a poem by William Butler Yeats. It's called The Song of the Old Mother. I rise in the dawn and I kneel and blow till the seed of the fire flicker and glow. And then I must scrub and bake and sweep till stars are beginning to blink and peep. So if I look at my rhymes, end of each poem, we've got blow and glow, sweep and peep. Okay? So blow and glow, sweep and peep. I annotated these two red because they rhyme with each other. I annotated these two green because they rhyme with each other. Okay? So blow and glow rhyme, it's A, A. Sweep and peep rhyme, that's B, B. Now just to check my work, I'm going to make sure that sweep and glow don't rhyme. Sweep and glow, no, they don't rhyme. Okay? So the poem is going to be in AABB format. Okay, so I'm going to use this kind of graphic organizer to analyze my thoughts or to organize my ideas. So I've got rhyme scheme and repeated pattern. Now, I already know that the rhyme scheme is AABB. I'm going to think about a repeated pattern. So if I look at all of these words, blow, glow, sweep, peep, these are all verbs or action words. Okay, so that's a repeated pattern that I'm seeing with this poem. So the AABB rhyme scheme helps tie together the parts of each idea, starting the fire and cleaning all day. The repeated pattern, ending each line with a group of verbs, suggests the day in, day out nature of the woman's work. How does all of this contribute to the poem's meaning? The work of a mother is ongoing and difficult. Let's look at another example. Okay? This poem is called The Barred Owl, and it's by Richard Wilbur. The warping night air having brought the boom of an owl's voice into our darkened room, we tell the wakened child that all she heard was an odd question from a forest bird, asking us if rightly listened to, who cooks for you, and then who cooks for you. Words which can make our terrors bravely clear can also thus domesticate a fear and send a small child back to sleep at night, not listening for the sound of stealthy flight, or dreaming of some small thing in a claw, borne up to some dark branch and eaten raw. Okay, so first I'm going to look at rhyme scheme. So we've got boom, room, A, heard, bird, B, B, to, you, C, C. Let's see if that rhyme scheme is repeated again in the second stanza. We've got clear and fear. Clear and fear rhyme, this is going to be A. Night, flight. Night and flight rhyme, that's going to be B. And claw and raw, those rhyme, it's going to be C. Okay? So I think we could accurately say that this has an A, B, C rhyme scheme. The poem is separated into two different stanzas, okay? And if I look at the first stanza and try to interpret what they're saying, I think this sounds like two parents who are trying to ease their child's fears about what's going on outside their bedroom at night and help them fall back asleep, okay? So that's what I see in the first stanza. The second stanza looks like a conversation between the two parents after they put their child to sleep. And in this conversation, they kind of question their motives. They said, yeah, we told this child that everything is all right, but they're still kind of scared because a small thing, which would be their child, in a claw, could be taken up to a dark branch and eaten by who? By the barred owl who's waiting outside the child's bedroom, or outside the child's bedroom window. So, I'm going to use this graphic organizer to help me see how structural elements add to the poem's meaning. So, we got stanzas, two stanzas. We just talked about the two different ideas expressed in either stanza. We've got the rhyme scheme, which we've identified, then we got repetition, okay? So, two stanzas. The first stanza is what parents say to a child. The second stanza is their reasoning after they shut the door. The rhyme scheme, the AABBCC rhyme scheme, is similar to a lullaby used to help a child fall asleep. And in terms of repetition, we've got who, you, small, some, sound, and stealthy. So if I go back and look into the poem, okay, who and who is repeated here, right? Who cooks for you and who cooks for you? The author repeats this line because they want to create a sound device that mimics that of an owl making sounds during the night, the who sound, okay? Then in the second stanza, we see the repetition of the consonant sound S, okay? Now this is not alliteration because it appears in different lines, but the S is being repeated. The author wants us to focus specifically on these words: sleep, stealthy, and small, okay? So that brings us to our CFU today. How does the rhyme scheme of the poem contribute to its meaning? Okay, so we've got, if we go back and look directly at the poem, remember the rhyme scheme: A, B, B, C, C. Okay, now authors use rhyme to create rhythm in a poem and also to tie together or connect ideas, okay? So when I read this poem, the warping night air having brought the boom of an owl's voice into her darkened room, we tell the wakened child that all she heard was an odd question from a forest bird. So as I read this poem, it has like a calming effect, okay? And that reflects the parents attempting to ease the child's fears and put them back to sleep, okay? So keeping that idea fresh in your head, pause the video right now and answer the CFU. Once you come back, I'm going to reveal the answer to you. See you soon. All right, guys, welcome back to our CFU reveal, okay? How does the rhyme scheme of the poem contribute to its meaning? The AABB, this should be CC, rhyme scheme is similar to a lullaby used to help a child fall asleep. This creates a calm mood, okay? So here, the author is using rhyme, the author is using the rhyme scheme to create a calm mood that reflects the ideas that are expressed in the first stanza. And that brings us to guided practice for today. All right, so for today's guided practice, you will read from a poem by Gary Soto. This is called An Ode to My Family. It's a type of lyric poem that celebrates something. As you read, think about what the poem celebrates. The speaker starts by flipping through an album of family photographs. Does he keep doing so at the end? What changes, and how do the lines and stanzas show the change? Okay? So, I want you guys to read the poem at least twice. I want you to annotate instances of all things wrong with the photographs. So as you read, once he starts talking about the negative aspects of the photographs or what's off about them, make sure you annotate that. As you read, think about what changes and how do the lines and stanzas show that change. So what changes in the author's mind and how do the lines and stanzas show or depict that change? Okay, so key points in this lesson, we learned about how the structure of a poem affects its meaning. Poems are usually written in groups of lines called stanzas rather than in paragraphs. Poems tell a story or express the speaker's thoughts or feelings. Poems, like stories, have patterns that help readers interpret the poet's message. The way a poem is organized is called poetic structure. Determining a poem's structure and figuring out how it reveals more about a poem's meaning will help you better understand the poems you read. So for your guided practice, work through the next 3 questions in your document and submit when they are complete. Okay? Let's have a great day of learning. Thank you guys so much for staying with me during this lesson, and I will see you next week. Thank you.